Let me talk about the next topic. So there was one other question that I had. People wanted to know, people wanted another video to show their friends about why the game is awesome. And this is tough. I've answered this a few times, and I've answered it once in a highlight at least. And it's a lot to talk about in a very short 5-minute time frame. I mean, the hotkeys one probably took, what, 10, 15 minutes? So a short video about why the game is awesome is not easy. There are ridiculous amounts of things to discuss. So, how do I even begin if I'm structuring this? Usually when I'm asked, I just answer it right away and I don't think. But if I were to think about it slightly, how would I answer this? So, first of all, just to note, I have played this game since like 2014, since like the end of 2014, right? For a very, very long time. And I've actually played most of this time as a solo player, by myself. And I entertain myself, by kind of having friends in different factions, having friends in all sorts of different guilds, helping people out just because they ask, hanging out with people and being social. I entertain myself, and I do not condone that gameplay, actually. Most people will not have fun in Archeage by playing solo like I do. But I also stream and do other stuff, and I enjoy that kind of thing, right? But in general, getting a guild and doing guild content with players is a really, really vital aspect, because the social aspect in any MMO is very, very important to to sort of follow through with. But Archeage is awesome because not only does it give you the social aspects, and of course the political aspects, and there's trolls and all sorts of things like you'd expect. From any MMO, that's just how it is, right? But the fact is that you can actually work with your guild in very positive ways, or your faction with very positive ways, especially in a more, the more recent version now of Archeage, right? It does actually condone a lot of faction gameplay versus guild gameplay, which, has its positives and negatives, but that's just where we are at the moment, right? So we kind of have to take that in. Now, Archeage itself has a ridiculous amount of actual content, and kind of like RuneScape, there are a very, very large number of different proficiencies or things that you can get into in order to make money using labor, right? Using your labor system. So you can go all the way out on larceny and just, use your, become very labor efficient on killing mobs and getting money from them. You can go very high into cooking, or very high into logging, or very high into masonry. And at the very top levels, you get access to crafts that other people are not able to access, and they might need your help with completing those for them. So you might actually, be tasked with sort of, crafting something for somebody because they asked you to, or just because you're, trying to take advantage of that yourself. Like the highest farming levels, or the highest husbandry levels, you can create pens of animals, so it becomes much easier to manage them, and so on. Or you can craft those pens for other people and make an income off of using your labor to do that for other people. So there's a lot of end game stuff in the proficiencies alone. But in general, there's so much content in the world itself that a lot of people are just, they do on a daily basis, but they don't think about. So for example, there's, daily events that happen, and a lot of people are always very, skeptical about, oh, you have to do all the dailies, but the truth is you don't. You don't have to do all the dailies. You can compete just fine without having to, constantly worry about all of that stuff, right? I've talked about that in separate videos, but the fact is there is so much stuff to do in Archeage, from sea content with trading across the ocean, or going out into the ocean and digging up sunken ships to take packs off of them and bring them back inland in order to turn them in for gold, or to take them to take trade packs to Freeditch, or to go out and kill like ghost ships for some extra Gilda stars, as well as treasure maps that you can then go and use the treasure maps to find those locations and dig up some kind of reward that you can then sell on the auction house. There's a ton of stuff just on the sea itself. Plus, of course, there's world bosses that spawn, and that's content with your faction or with your guilds. And there's just going around and pirating and stopping other people from doing all of that content as well. Inland, you can still do content in all sorts of different areas, from just the events that happen throughout the day, like CR or GR, which is Crimson Rift, or Grimghast Rift. A lot of the times those are sometimes PvP, actually, because the enemy faction comes over to attack you, or maybe you want to set up a raid to go and attack them. I've seen a lot of pirates occasionally go and just fight in GRCR because they want to fight, right? And that's kind of cool, actually. I do enjoy that. So that does still exist, for sure. But there is content that people can actually do and work together with in order to accomplish something. Now, of course, we have the garden accessible, so people can go with their factions and fight people from other servers even in one particular condensed location, and kill really, really high-end world bosses as well as really, really high-end and end game mobs to progress, right? So there's a lot you can do there with your faction or with your guild as well, to just go around and do really, really hard content. And during war, of course, people can go around and kill each other, and I've actually been enjoying the PvP quite a bit since this has come out. In addition to all that, there's all of the Aurora stuff in general, right? There's a rift that spawns in Sun Gold Fields twice a day, 2 different rifts. There's a CR rift, which spawns an Anthelon Shadow at the end of that rift. There's also the world bosses that spawn in 3 different places, or in Sun Gold Fields and Exilok. Each in-game day that people can compete over for those world bosses. There's just there's tons of there's the Aegis Island, which is a contesting with kind of PvE contesting to get rewards for that. There's Whale Song Harbor, which is another sort of thing that can happen throughout the day. That's a more PvP contest thing, because you can actually go and fight other factions just for the fun of it, who are doing their Whale Song event, and we see that happen pretty often too. So there's tons of stuff to do, right? There's no shortage of things. There's no shortage of exploring the proficiencies in order to do stuff, and that's like one of my favorite things, is the fact that you can do any of these things. Personally, I don't get into trading, so most of my money comes from actually abusing the auction house, buying low and selling high, or just going out and killing mobs, and then using my labor on the coin purses. Recently, I've been achievement hunting, and I've been trying to unlock more titles so that I can get my title experience up. And then with the title experience up, I can unlock more little icons that appear next to your name. And so to do that, I have been trying to get all my proficiencies up to 50k, or at least 50k with Dawn's Drop gear. So the Dawn's Drop gear gives you an extra little proficiency boost to these. So there's a ton of stuff. There's so many different things to think about, and it can get pretty easy to be overwhelmed with the game. But this is an MMO. You're meant to be playing this game for years and years and years. That's how it's designed. You're supposed to be able to go into the game and progress on one character that you can call your own, and you can make friends with and have a history with over a very long period of time, which is awesome and really, really amazing, and a very good feeling, actually. And then number 2 is you could do kind of whatever you want. People make money from artistry just by selling selling music to people that request certain songs, or maybe they go and convert real songs into the MIDI files they need to make them in-game, right? To sort of make those same songs in-game, and then they sell that for gold. And that's really cool, actually. It's actually awesome that people do that. So there's tons of content. There's things to do. Again, it's all based off of social interactions with your guild or with, your faction. And there's obviously going to be a lot of trolling and politics that go on with it. There's a hero system that people, can also take advantage of, so the people who are the most popular and do the most events and hopefully help the most people will go and get extra things they can go and help others with. There's the siege system. Every week there's a siege that goes on over a castle, so those heroes help sort of organize those events. So there's tons. I mean, it's an endless amount of things. Not to mention the fact that there's even more coming with the garden later on too, with what the heroes can do, and it's just an immense amount of stuff. So I guess the original question was, why is the game awesome? And I think it's just because there is so many sandboxy elements to it. Besides all of the dungeons you can do, besides the arenas, besides the Halsey Golden Plains Battle War. I never call it Golden Plains Battle. This war that happens throughout the day as well between different servers, fighting each other and such. And all the different content you can do to progress your gear and to get better and so on. There's so much to do. It is easy to feel overwhelmed. It is easy to be like, oh, you have to do everything. It feels like you're doing dailies. But stop yourself. This is a long-term game, right? If you're playing this game for long term, you don't have to stress about doing everything. You might want to do everything and get stressed about that. But I can promise you that if you just chill and relax and play the video game, you'll have way more fun than anybody who's trying to compete in some weird high-level thing. All right? I don't do that. I have 12,000 gear score, and I'm doing just fine PvEing by myself in the garden, PvPing in the garden against people with 16,000 or more gear score. I have no problem with that, especially if I'm not attacking a tank, for example, right? If I'm going against classes I'm actually supposed to kill, I have no problems with that. There's no issues there. So I don't need to upgrade my gear anymore. I do it for fun, or I do it in certain ways, or I go and I work on mounts, gliders, pets, combat pets, specifically, right? Vehicles, upgrading boats, getting you know, I just got a small wyvern just for fun, just because I wanted a small wyvern, and it's like a cool pet to have, right? Or, you know, the furniture, or the, you know, for your land, and, you know, the land itself, and trying to get land that's next to each other. And there's just so many different things to do. And again, you know, Archeage being this very long-term game, it's encouraged to get involved in all those kind of things. But again, you know, it's easy to feel like there's too much, right? So make yourself a list is my best encouragement, is make yourself a list of all the things you want to get done, and then just do them in order, or do them like based on priority, or just work on them and check things off. Because it does kind of get a little bit intense in that sense, especially at the beginning when there's so much you want to do, right? Especially during your fresh start. But the fact that all of this does exist is why the game is so cool. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I've kind of gone off quite a bit more than I wanted to in this video, but and it's really just a highlight of a stream that I did with no real practice or anything, right? This is completely on a whim. But hopefully this is answering the question of why the game is awesome, and helps at least give some people a better idea of what Archeage is about, and how this works in the game. All right? And again, I can go off for probably another hour about stuff too, but I'm not going to do that right now. I tried to keep this short, but I failed already, so sorry about that. All right, thanks guys, appreciate it. Yeah, I did it. Okay, so that highlight's done. I answered the question, right? I actually had a couple people ask for some kind of a video about that, but to be honest, I didn't get to anything that I wanted to. Like, I wanted to talk about so much more, and I like, it's impossible. There's so much to talk about with Archeage. But I think I got all my points across. I hope so, at least.